Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're meant to do it. So Mickey Joseph, the recently let go wide receivers coach for LSU, he went on the Jordy Culotta show yesterday, and he was asked about Joe Brady potentially coming back to LSU now that he's been fired from the Carolina Panthers.
I don't know, maybe. Maybe. I mean, because Joe's young. Joe was a better recruiter than he thought. Joe didn't. I like Joe. You're a really good recruiter because Joe's got a great personality. He's open. He understands different cultures. But he had a great personality. But Joe was a really good recruiter. I know people didn't think he wasn't, but he was a really good recruiter. He identified with these kids. He identified. He wasn't intimidated when he walked in that room with Terrence and Jamar. He just came from the Saints. So Joe understands how to get things done on the college level.
Now, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Joe Brady is a young, smart, easy to get along with guy, very relatable to the players. All that stuff about him being a better recruiter than he realizes doesn't really shock me. There's only one problem with all of that. Joe Brady hates recruiting with a passion. He despises chasing after 16-year-olds. As I say that out loud, now it kind of becomes a little clear to me why he hates doing that. So before I got into sports media, I studied acting from the age of 17 to 23, for those of you who don't know. And in 2017, I just kind of looked around and I realized I like acting. Everyone says I'm good at it. But here's the problem. I hate the lifestyle. And I realized just because I'm good at something doesn't mean that I'm meant to do it. I fell in love with the thing, but I didn't fall in love with the life or the business. Now, the question that people keep on asking me, will Joe Brady come back to be LSU's offensive coordinator? That's not really up to LSU, because Joe Brady does not like the lifestyle of recruiting or the lifestyle of coaching in college football. My personal opinion on who should be the offensive coordinator, if it should be Joe Brady, that answer is no, unless Brian Kelly evaluates Joe Brady and says, yeah, he can be our offensive coordinator. Because unlike Brian Kelly, I'm out of my league. I did not coach college football for a single solitary day. But why in the hell would you want to give a guy who has never been successful at being a full-time play caller the job at LSU? But what about 2019? Okay. I've said this for the 1 millionth time, and I'm going to say this hopefully, but probably not, for the last time. Joe Brady was not the offensive coordinator for LSU in 2019. Steve Ensminger was the offensive coordinator for LSU in 2019. Joe Brady was not the quarterback coach for LSU in 2019. Steve Ensminger was. Joe Brady was not the play caller on game day. Steve Ensminger was. How can I make that any clearer to anyone listening? Joe Brady was the co-wide receivers coach with Mickey Joseph, and he helped install RPOs and passing concepts that he learned firsthand with the New Orleans Saints. That's it. That's all. I don't know how I can make that any clearer. Steve Ensminger was the play caller offensive coordinator for LSU in 2019. Joe Brady was a co-wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator. He did not call plays on game day. End of discussion. Well, how do you know this, Nick? What makes you so in the know? Well, it's really kind of simple. I'll tell you the same thing I told the arrogant pissants who were in my LSU classes in 2019, kept on telling me Joe Brady's the play caller because, quote, I saw Joe Brady sitting next to Steve Ensminger in the booth on TV, and then I heard Kirk Herbstreit say Brady was the offensive coordinator. I'll tell you the same thing I told them. I know that that's wrong because I've literally heard every single solitary LSU journalist, beat reporter that has sources and knowledge inside the locker room that sit in the press box right next to where the coordinators sit on game day. They have publicly gone on radio. Every radio host that has sources and knows former players and current players inside that locker room, they have gone on websites and reported this. I've heard former players like Jacob Hester and Gordy Rush, who are working in LSU media, who have keys to the football facility and can stand on the sidelines during games, be in the press box whenever they want to, during scrimmages, during practices, interview the coaches whenever they fucking feel like it, say that Steve Ensminger was the play caller for LSU in 2019. All you did was watch someone sit next to somebody on television. Do you see the difference between the two things? And then on top of that, you let the lazy, overrated former football players who have a job on national TV, only because they are good looking and they speak well in front of a camera, convince you that Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator, when any person with any kind of intelligence or work ethic would take the 15 fucking seconds to Google search it to find out that Joe Brady was the co-wide receiver coach and passing game coordinator on the LSU website, official LSU website, for 2019. Yet for some reason, when everybody else Googles Joe Brady, they think that his biography reads the reincarnation of Bill Walsh. Not true. And look, did Joe Brady do a great job of being the wide receivers coach and a passing game coordinator? Yes, he did an unbelievable job at doing that. He's a really smart guy, okay? Joe Brady's a really smart guy, and I think he will have a chance to be a great offensive coordinator one day. But I'll say this. Just because you are a smart guy does not mean you can call plays on game day. Because calling plays on game day, that's an art. That's an art that Steve Ensminger understood better than Joe Brady. The best analogy that I can give you for this is this. Just because you understand the ingredients of how to make a soup, you know how to explain those ingredients to someone else eloquently and beautifully, and you can even make that soup very well in the comfort of your own home. That does not mean that you can make that same soup to perfection at a 4-star restaurant with pressure and the hecticness inside of a professional kitchen with everyone screaming down your ass telling you to hurry up. Those are two very different things. Does that mean Joe Brady will never have success as an offensive coordinator? No. No. It just means he hasn't proven it yet. But LSU, in this situation, in my opinion, should not give someone over $2 million to try and guess if that he can be a successful offensive coordinator by himself without Steve Ensminger. Well, Nick, okay, who do you want LSU to hire as the offensive coordinator? I don't know. Maybe whoever the head coach with the most wins and second highest winning percentage in college football, maybe that guy should decide. Just a thought. But if Brian Kelly decides that, hey, I want to hire Joe Brady, then fine. If he wants to interview Joe Brady, watch film with Joe Brady, watch film of Joe Brady's play calling in Carolina, and he decides, you know what, I think he can be my offensive coordinator at LSU. Fine. But let him decide that. The $100 million man who turned around 4 programs and is the winningest coach in Notre Dame football history. Brian Kelly, who became the winningest coach in Notre Dame history with 16 different coordinators, 7 of them who he promoted from within. Maybe that guy knows how to hire the right assistant coaches and we don't. The same reason why Brian Kelly let go of Tommy Moffitt as the strength and conditioning coach. He's a staple of LSU football the last 21 years, and that's great, and it sucks to see him move out. It really does. But maybe the athletic director and the fans and the boosters should shut the fuck up and stop telling LSU coaches how to do their job in the same way that Joe Oliva with Ed Ogeron and hiring Matt Canada, with Skip Bertman with Les Miles telling him to hire or keep Jimbo Fisher. Brian Kelly is keeping Corey Raymond and getting rid of Tommy Moffitt for a very good reason. What is the reason? Not sure. I'm not getting paid $100 million. Who are the candidates? Not sure of that either. I'm sure you'll hear some rumors, but nothing's for sure. But here's the beautiful thing about all of this, LSU fans. You now have a head coach who actually knows how to do this part of the job really, really, really well. So sit back, relax, and let him do it. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.